You know, today's topic of today's story, this has to have been one of the most questionable exits. This is basically hashtag down bad. I mean, if you want like the definite story of a draft bust, I should say here, I think this is officially the story. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Browns Comparisons podcast, and I am basically the man in charge of the old thing, Mr. Chaostopia, and today we have an issue. And no, it's not y'all's fault. It's not anyone's fault or anything. I'm just saying we have an unfortunate issue. So without further ado, let me just go ahead and really explain to this one. So today's story, this basically is about pretty much about one of the more celebrated OCFA QBs that was highly touted coming out of college. And the guy he ended up going ahead and facing in Triumph Bowl basically actually has had a better career than him. Just showing that you can be dominant in college. But that doesn't mean you're gonna be dominant in the OFL. And I'm talking this is an OCFA thing. So we're basically gonna be covering the season, a rise and fall of Aghety, a quarterback that pretty much was very good. And without a doubt, he was a very good quarterback and was highly touted. But just as soon as he got to the OFL, his career came just crashing down. So, with this going ahead and starting up, if you guys can, make sure you guys go and basically go and like the button on the whole thing, because I don't usually post here on the podcast channel. I usually go ahead and I usually am on my main channel, which is Brown DC. So you guys want to go ahead and basically check in. You guys can go ahead and see it in the end card. So without further ado, let's go on and basically talk about this whole thing. So the person that we're gonna be talking about in this story is someone that goes by the name of Aghety. Now, well, I'm pretty sure some of you OCFAers are gonna be hearing this and be like, "Hey, yo, I know Aghety. Wasn't he basically some guy that went ahead and wasn't he like the former Detroit Freeze quarterback back in season 22 in the OCFA?" Yes, he was, and that's exactly the guy we're going to talk about. Now, keep in mind, Aghety had a very good little career in the OCFA. I think very without doubt, if you had to go ahead and also reconsider, you think that basically he was pretty much without a doubt better than most people would get. And in season 22, this is one of those stories. So to start this one off, let's go back all the way just pretty much to when this whole thing was just kind of starting up. So we're going back to season 22. Now, season 22 was without a doubt a very interesting season, I will say that. Because first of all, let's go ahead and basically see pretty much a bit of a rise in what we saw from this OCFA QB. Now keep in mind, Aghety was pretty much entering his first season as a full-time starter and was looking at just highly touted. And in his first game as an OCFA starter back in season 22, he went 31 for 37. Despite only throwing just one pick, he threw 14 touchdowns. Okay, now put this into retrospective. 14 touchdowns. That's basically the OCFA record. Not to mention, that's also pretty much, if you did that in the OFL, that's pretty much that also goes ahead and ties the OFL record. So, for his first game in season 22 as a full-time starter, the cat went ahead and just went sicko mode. He just went off. In addition, he was just he pretty much had one of the better teams, and the Freeds were able to win that game. So now basically, now you're thinking about, now you're going ahead and you're reading this and you're like, chaos. Yes, he basically just had a good opening day. That doesn't set a tone. I think this set the tone for the Freeze. Detroit would go ahead and they would go 6-2, make the playoffs as the second seed, only behind the Montreal Cobras. And there were other teams you also gotta go ahead and note. There's also pretty much that Seattle Blitz squad. That went 4-4. The Death Valley Reapers, they went 5-3. And mind you, the Blitz and the Reapers had some pretty decent QBs. The Cobras, they had a little bit of their QB controversy, but they were aight. They were like basically alright, and basically were just expected. And also, this was basically a season that we saw the New York Battlehawks go 5-3 as well. And the Battlehawks would also have to go through their own fair, weird QB little merry-go-round. Daytona, which is basically my college alumni. They went 2-6, and were basically one of the worst teams in the league that season. One like the worst, so there was a worse team. Blue 5 fans, if you see this, I'm sorry. I'm just saying. I mean, the Maryland Maelstrom were also a good team that went ahead and contended too at 4-4, and they had a pretty good quarterback themselves, and Asian Halcyon with 27 touchdowns against 6 picks. Now I'll say this straight up. Even though Aghety went ahead and cooled down after that opening week game, in which, by the way, this was a game against the Freaks that they won 100-55. So that basically just puts a bit of some freeze on there. But then, despite they were the only teams that got ahead and basically start the opening week off with a bang. The Honolulu Hornets, who basically without a doubt even though they went 1-7, they started opening week off getting a huge dub. I'm talking a huge dub over Daytona, where they won 132-14. if you're the head coach of that team, I don't know what you should just at least would quit in the fourth quarter, right? You're just gonna let your players sit there and just die like that? Like, nah. Anyways, despite basically with that hot start, this basically just started fuel. As the next game, they go ahead and they traveled to Daytona. But unfortunately, Aghety wasn't there to make the game. But with that, it didn't really matter, as of course they went ahead and they won 57-32. Next game, Aghety goes ahead and he returns to the lineup. Despite a 15 for 21, 4 touchdown, 1 pick day, they went ahead and they pretty much somehow lost the game 46-40. Then they went and they skipped the Maelstrom 29-26, in which Aghety went ahead and he threw 3 interceptions in that game. So he's already had 5 interceptions thrown in the season. And it's already week 4. This is basically typical for the usual OCFA QB. But after that game, all he did go ahead and he basically did he did miss week 5. That really didn't matter to the Blizzard, to the Freeze anyways. They went ahead and they got a forfeit win over the Blue Devils. They returned to week 6. Aghety goes off. 22 for 28, 7 touchdowns. Does not even throw a single pick. Freeze win that game 50-12. Next game, they go ahead and they go up against the Blue Fire. Aghety goes ahead and he once again just shows why he's dominant. And in the 66-13 win, he threw 7 touchdowns, no interceptions, went 15 for 17 on that day. Now keep in mind also as well, the week prior, he went 22 for 28. So the past 2 games back to back, he threw more touchdowns. He had incompletions. Now with that being said, he would go ahead and he did take week 8, a bit of week 8 off. Or maybe they did, I don't know. Anyways, they did lose to the Comets to end the season at 6-2, but it's nothing like going ahead and losing 100. Wait, what the heck? Okay, I'm a bit confused here. Are they were once I don't know. Maybe it was season 22 thing. I do not know. Like, how do they do the stats in this league? Okay, yeah. This was pretty much still a season that, Daytona went ahead and they went freaking. Yeah, it was a horrible record. You had to feel bad for Daytona in that game. Well, the Freeze went ahead and basically were dominant all in the playoffs, and before they knew it, they were in the Triumph Bowl. Which, if you OFLers that do watch these, don't know, that's basically the OCFA's equivalent to the Victory Bowl. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people know that, but I'm just putting that out there for all those memes that don't know. So in that game, he went ahead and he had the hardest task and took on Aghety and the Kingston Knights. Now keep in mind when you're talking about the Knights, they were without a doubt no joke. Like, I don't know, I can't name a team that you can match right up that can literally say this is just no joke. I mean, this is Aghety. He went up against. And Aghety, he was a very good quarterback that season in the OCFA. He threw more touchdowns than Aghety. Although, yes, Aghety went ahead and he threw a respectable 35 in 5 games. Apen threw 49 in 7 games. He threw 11 interceptions. Like basically, he was that guy that people were going to go ahead and they were going to remember him by. And that game turned out to be a very interesting game. I remember going ahead and watching this game, but the commentating team was a bit of trolls, so I didn't really get the full concept of the whole thing. But even with the whole trolling thing, the freeze went off somehow in some way. The freeze went ahead and would go on to win that Triumph Bowl. I know I said Victory Bowl. Oops. They'll go off to win that Triumph Bowl by a final score of 45-28 or 42-28. I don't remember the score of that game, but I know that Detroit scored either 42 or 45, and the Knights for sure scored 28. And that basically kind of locked up Aghety's draft status if you went into the draft. Now, with that in mind, let's go into the next part, which is the OFL draft. Now, entering this draft process, this was without a doubt one of the best highly touted quarterback prospects. He went ahead, he did all the stuff you wanted right. Like, he was looking as a future quarterback that can actually, without a doubt, be up there with the greats. And this is basically he was entering OFL in season 27. So Calvin didn't have pretty much his 5 rings with the T-Words yet, and he basically had 3. But the Thunderbirds are still reigning champions at that point. Well, the Pemberley Punishers, they went ahead and they needed a quarterback, and they took no chance and went ahead and selected Aghety number 1 overall. And with that, here comes his QB career. Now, I'll say this straight up: the Punishers are a very interesting topic that we're gonna go ahead and cover up next. But I can just say it straight up: they were just not a good team. The Pemberley Punishers that season basically went 2-6, but they went 1-4 with basically Aghety as the starter. But when you looked at what Aghety did at QB, it didn't look like he was the person to blame, though. He basically did what you were asked to do. He basically had through 22 touchdowns against 8 interceptions. Best part about the whole thing was that he kept his team in games a lot. But people just failed people just failed to go and realize it. So with that going ahead and basically settling a bit of that whole issue, so this basically goes ahead and happens. What happened that Aghety only was able to play in 5 games? Well, the unfortunate part about this, we'll go ahead and would eventually kind of look back and like saying, damn, what the hell? Now, this first suspension was without a doubt a very a very bit of a weird one. Is that he went ahead and he put was that on January 8th, 2021. This is what I'm reading here. He went ahead and he was suspended 6 weeks for the intention to alt. That and also, like, it was basically a big day of being suspended. And even and the next season, he tried basically went ahead and he tried to appeal the remaining time on that suspension left, because he already went and he served 3 weeks of it, but the appeal got denied. So season 20. So without base. So anyways, back to basically how the Punishers did. So with the Punishers basically out, their starting quarterback, they went ahead and they made the switch to having Monster White at QB. Now I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys watching this was that, wait, Chaos, didn't Monster White first QB for the Nighthawks last season 29? No, that's the problem with this. Was that Monster White would end up going ahead and he would take over as the team starter for 2 games, but not before they had Maroon Flamingo 6834 as a starting quarterback as well. I'll put this down to retrospective. 15 for 34, 4 touchdowns against 1 pick was very stout. I will just say that. The problem with what he did, the Punishers would end up going ahead and lost 42-38 to the Rockford Raptors. But keep in mind, this is basically still close. The Punishers still kept it close in those matchups. So with that switch being made, they decided to make the switch to Monster Wyatt at QB. Now, Wyatt already had OCFA experience at QB. I mean, there's actually really has been an old video that I went and I found some old OCFA highlights of Monster Wyatt QB. So that going ahead and happening. This goes ahead and basically starts off a few questions, and also has a few answers. Why basically did White basically after that performance didn't QB? Well, here's the thing. White went ahead and he also went ahead and he QB'd again, but for 1 game as a member of the Milliken Rams. And in that game, despite it being a loss, he did okay. Went 21 for 29, 4 touchdowns against 4 picks. Nothing crazy, but nothing stupid. As for Aghety, he ended up spending that second season in the OFL trying to find a QB job. With him not being able to find one, he basically went ahead and he took a spot at wide receiver for the Omaha Nighthawks. That's basically where he went and he got to meet Clan, got to go and also play for Era. But I swear, when it came to basically Nighthawks players and that HC tenure with Era, that's a bit of a different story. With that being without going ahead and putting into effect, that was a bit of an issue. Anyways, the Aghety went ahead and he ended up taking season 29 off. And he basically would be back until season 30. And then season 30, it all came crashing instantly. I repeat, instantly down. Now, season 30, he went ahead and he basically made a signing and went to the Dansville Ducks. The reason why Dansville is that one, his good friend Clam was there. And they went ahead and they became kind of like close brothers in the whole process. If you go ahead and if you ask me on the whole situation, but they were still good friends. Now, I can tell you straight up, Aghety was said to go ahead and in some spots, he was said to be the wide receiver 3 or 2 for the Dansville Ducks when he was activated. But then worse news went ahead and came in and basically just dawned and just called the dusk for an OFL draft bust. Earlier today, at the time I was making this video, we went ahead and found out that Aghety was banned for the possession of exploits. Now, first of all, exploiting in the OFL is already a suspension enough. And recently, and pretty much 4 days ago, as I'm recording this, Era went ahead and he confirmed that possession of exploits is now a permanent ban in the OFL, which was, even though it was previously 6 weeks. So now, basically, with his OFL career just basically done, vanished, you basically would wonder, what happened to Aghety after the whole thing? Now, that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing I wanted to go ahead and ask though too. And judging by how this situation goes, I'm pretty sure he basically has he's accepted the fate of him not being able to QB or play in the OFL again. That, and also the fact that he is pretty much, I don't think could even play in AFL, to mention as well, because the OFL and AFL kind of have basically like a DOJ that basically they announce basically certain situations. But Aghety basically now is said to say he called his OFL career one and done. If you ask me about this whole thing, about how he did, I think Aghety went ahead and he had what you would say a successful OFL career. Not even an OFL career, excuse me. He had a successful OCFA career. He was able to make the fine adjustment to the OFL. But the problem was you just can't keep getting stay out of trouble. And mind you, when you staying out of trouble in this league is a very important thing. That unfortunately was just the one thing Aghety couldn't do. That going basically being said, that pretty much goes ahead, and that was the story of Aghety. The rise and fall of a former number 1 overall pick. Now, with this going ahead and really just ending, I would really like to go ahead and first of all thank basically the OCFA for basically me for them having this season 22's stat sheet available for me to go ahead and look at this one. This is something that I really need to explain the story. And mind you, this was a story that I have to say was a bit of a mix. Is just a bit of a mixed bag. Also, shout out to the OFL for having the season 27 league sheet available as well, so I can also go ahead and really look at that whole thing as well. But and also with this one, I do want to go ahead and basically just say what a career that Aghety had, not in a negative fashion, but in just the way he was able to adjust to the OFL. That's some stuff that he basically that people could never do. Heck, I basically am entering my 3rd season in the OFL, and even I can't be doing that shit. But despite basically being a draft bust, Aghety was able to shine out bright and early. And that, of course, explains one of the better quotes. Sometimes the biggest stars go ahead and fade earlier. Thanks for watching.